Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the CrossFit Games Update Show. I'm Sean Woodland with Tommy Marquez and Pat Sherwood, continuing our preview of the Masters divisions for the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games. Today, we turn our attention to the women's divisions, the 50 to 60 plus age groups. There are a lot of familiar athletes in these divisions who have really made a name for themselves over the past couple of years.
We got a lot of talent. We have some returning champions, people that we expect to podium, but then there's some people that have been close, like Shelly Eddington, that I think this could really be a breakout year for.
A lot of returning games vets, but there are a couple wild cards that we haven't seen at the games just yet. We'll talk about that later.
We're going to start with the 60 plus division, and the Masters online qualifier leaderboard heading into the CrossFit Games has Lydia Beer on top of the leaderboard. She's 25 points up on Karen Miller. Close though between spots 2, Karen Miller, and spot 7, Sean Harvard. Just 29 points separating them, but Lydia Beer, because of what she did in the Masters online qualifier, certainly comes in as the favorite here.
Yeah, well, and she's got the experience behind that as well. She's qualified for the games 5 times. All of that was in the 55 to 59-year-old division, though. She missed last year being at the top end of that age division. She's really shown what aging up and being the younger athlete in the division can do for you. She's come back with a vengeance. She won the Open, 3 firsts, 2 fourth-place finishes, just completely dominated points-wise. Followed that up by winning the Masters qualifier as well. Her only slip-up was a 25th place in the max deadlift, but compared to her peers that are going to the games, it wasn't that bad. Only 6 athletes from that pool actually beat her. So even though strength isn't a top-end thing for her, the other athletes aren't succeeding in that as well, so she looks pretty good.
Who do you think her main challenger will be in Carson?
I'm going to go international for you.
Okay.
Out to Australia. Karen Miller, she's out of CrossFit Loaded. She was 4th place in the Open, 2nd in the Masters online qualifier. She did great. 4 events in the qualifier, a 4th, a 1st, and a 4th. The only slip-up was the deadlift, where she took 49th, but she still pulled 235 pounds. It's ridiculous that that's a 49th place finish. And then Rita Robinson, 3rd place in the Masters qualifier. And Rita, if your numbers are accurate, it says you have a 400-meter sprint of 90 seconds. That's a good 3 minutes faster than Sean. That is so impressive. You know, she loved the 15-minute AMRAP there, so I'm very excited to see what Rita can do out there.
I
No
am
offense.
deceptively slow.
Exactly.
Who are some women that might be able to get themselves into the mix? Because as we saw with the men's side, and we talked about this yesterday, just because you're outside the top 10 doesn't mean you don't have a shot at getting on the podium.
Right. In 12th place, Mary Schwing is a great example of that. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about her. This will be her 5th trip to the games. She's always been on the podium. And then right behind her in 13th place is Deb Diamond, another veteran, so keep your eye on both of them.
Well, also, even if you're inside of the top 10, if you're outside the top 5, sometimes they kind of slip off of our radar. And don't miss out on Rosalie Glenn. She's the reigning champ from this division last year. She was 8th in the Open, moved up to 6th in the Masters qualifier, but she did something similar like this last year. Last year in the Masters qualifier, she was 14th overall heading into the games, but you know what? She showed up big in Carson when it counted and walked away as champion.
Over to the 55 to 59-year-old division, and this is probably the closest race that we have, at least coming into the games, out of any of the Masters divisions. Just 12 points separate Lynn Knappman, who's in 1st place, from 4th place Susan Hurst, and then just 1 point separates 5th place Patty Faya from 6th place Bianca Williams. Such a tight race at the top here. Who's the favorite?
Lynn Knappman is legitimately incredible. So she's so fit. She has qualified for the CrossFit Games Masters competition every single year since it has existed, 7 years in a row. She was 2nd place back in 2015, and she also has the most Masters Games top 10 finishes at 6th. And then right behind her, Mary Beth, of course, heading back to the games for the 5th time.
Yeah, Mary Beth. We didn't see her last year because she sat out due to an injury, but actually the last time we did see her compete in Carson, she was the Masters champion of the 50 to 54 division. It was actually her 2nd title. She also won back in 2011 as well. She's one of the most seasoned Masters competitors besides Knappman as well, because she's been on the podium 3 times. She took a 2nd back in 2012. She's competed at regionals as an individual just across the entire board. I mean, she's an athlete that is just comfortable out there on the floor, so she's always got a shot of winning.
Beyond the top 2, Knappman and Prodromitis, who are some women who could give them a run for the money and possibly bump them out of one of the top spots?
Well, there's an athlete in Susan Hurst who's a bit of a wild card in this division. She's relatively new. This is her first time qualifying for the CrossFit Games. She was 4th in the Masters qualifier, moved up after taking 12th in the Open. You look at her athletic background, it's pretty impressive. She was a collegiate swimmer at the United States Air Force Academy. After that, she dabbled in triathlons, marathons, so she definitely has an endurance background. But then you look at some of her best performances in the Masters qualifier. Second in the couplet of thrusters and rowing, a nice short sprint, and second in the 1-rep max deadlift. So she's definitely worked across the entire spectrum. I'm excited what she can do on the biggest stage.
Let's go over now to the 50 to 54-year-old division, where 2 women separated themselves from the rest of the field after the Masters Online qualifier. Cindy Kelly is in first place by 16 points over Shelly Eddington, but Eddington has some challengers behind her. It's tight on the leaderboard after that. Spots 2 through 7 separated by just 17 points. Diane Urban with 85 in 7th place, who moved up from 35th in the Open into one of those top 20 spots going to the CrossFit Games. But you look at Cindy Kelly and what she did in the Masters Online qualifier, and she's certainly the front runner coming in.
Well, yeah, beyond that, she's also the champ from this division last year at the Games. And then you go back a year before that in 2014, she was 2nd place behind only Mary Beth, who's in another division now, so it's not an athlete she needs to worry about. This year, 3rd in the Open, then wins the Masters qualifier behind a massive 337-pound deadlift that got her first place in the event. It was really the cornerstone for her improving to win the Masters qualifier, and obviously she's the top dog going in.
It's a ridiculous deadlift. But Shelly Eddington, I think, will have something to say when it comes time for the Games. This will be her 4th trip heading out there to Carson. She's been 3rd, she's been 5th. I interviewed her, and what I really like is she flat out said, I want to win. Yeah, I'm having fun, but I want to win. And when the skill increases, she really shines. So last event of the Masters qualifier had ring muscle-ups. She was 1st place, crushed that. At the Games last year, final event was Amanda, squat, snatch, ring muscle-ups. She was 1st there as well. Could be her year.
We mentioned that the spots 2 through 7 are so close. Who are some women in that group who have a chance of getting into the top 3?
I think Janice Spray is a good one. So she was 16th in the qualifier. The only thing which makes me a bit nervous is you need to have consistency to really perform well at the Games, and her 4 finishes were 59th, 69th, then a 2nd and a 4th. So she needs to smooth that out in Carson.
One of those athletes that was in that range you talked about, Sean, was Susan Hobby, and she's a 2-time Games champ back in 2011 and 2012. She had 2013 off due to an injury, kind of derailed her career for just a moment there, but then she came back, qualified for 2 straight CrossFit Games. She was 4th last year. She's right behind in the Masters qualifier, so don't sleep on a 2-time champ because she knows how to win.
The Masters competition gets going July 19th in Carson, California at the StubHub Center for the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games. Tickets are still available. Go to games.crossfit.com to check those out. We will be back tomorrow as we continue our Masters previews, checking out the men's 40 to 50-year-old divisions.